We're at TC8 Social, where as you can see, these stacks are deep. The max buy-in is 1,500. I've only played one hand of 2-5 ever, and I got stacked. So it's been a while. We're in for 900. Let's skip the intro. Let's get to it. First hand, we look down at Ace Jack. I pop it up to $15. There's one cold caller, and then there's a 3-bet to 110. Wow, that is absolutely massive. I was prepared for a lot of 3-betting, but I wasn't prepared for how often and how big it was always going to be. I opened like 8 times in the 3 hours. I was fairly card dead. I got 3-bet 6 out of the 8 times. Yeah, I don't believe this 110 3-bet at all, but am I in the mood to 4-bet it this early right now? Where if he's got a hand like Jacks or Ace King, which he just doesn't want to play and he's trying to get it over with, he might call a 4-bet or rejam himself, so I just let it go. The table is actually a bit short-handed at this point in time. We're 5-handed, and I look down at Ace 3 offsuit and open it up to $20 from under the gun. Not ideal, but yes, this is one of the best hands I've seen in a while. The +1 calls directly on my left, and so does a small blind. So 3 ways to a flop of King, Queen, 8 with 2 spades. God damn it. The small blind checks, and I'm really not in the... I mean, there's so many draws, even if we bet here. We're either behind or there's tons of draws, so there's no point. I check, and so does the +1. The turn is the 7 of clubs. And now the small blind checks to me again. And I definitely couldn't blame you for checking, as we still have ace high. But I decided to throw in a bet, maybe get a pocket pair, an 8 to fold right now. So I bet out for $25, and both of them call. Well, that is not what we were looking for. But the river, how about the ace of diamonds? Wow. The small blind checks it to me, and I think this is a spot where there's tons of draws that could have missed. The guy on my left is very aggressive in the first place, and if we bet and get raised, it's going to be really nasty. I think going into check call mode is fine. I mean, trying to get some value with river top pair here is not the worst thing. I check, and he bets for $55. The small blind checks, and I kind of just froze. I was still kind of in the initial, it's a little bit bigger of a game kind of standpoint. But eventually, I put in the call, and he just mucks. We win. All right, we then look down at King Jack offsuit in the cutoff. The +1 raises to 20. I put in the call. The button calls. Now the small blind 3-bets to $50. This is not something I've been seeing a lot of, really tiny 3-bets. I mean, even if he has aces, does he really want everyone to call? I'm not really sure. The +1 does not 4-bet. He calls, I call, and so does the button. To a flop of deuce, 3, 8 with 2 spades. Well, that does not help us literally at all. But interestingly, it checks around to me. Now, the small blind being the 3-better and giving up the betting lead, I think that really signifies ace king, ace queen. I can't imagine on this tone of a board after 3-betting with an overpair he would check. And the +1 who initially raised checked to me as well, so that's confusing. I actually think a bluff here with 2 overs, trying to get everyone off better king, ace highs, isn't the worst idea ever, so I actually bet out for $75. The player I most want to fold is the button who hasn't acted yet, and he does. The 3-better, the small blind folds, and now it gets to the +1, who's one of these Euro pros. They are everywhere in these 2-5 games. He takes a lot of time, but eventually puts in the call, and I'm thinking, damn, this is not good. He could have 2 big overs, ace king, ace queen, wants to peel one off. How about the turn of the king of diamonds? He checks to me again. Now we're going from bluffing to betting for value. I bet for $165. And to be honest with you, I don't think I want to call because I'm not sure what worse hands are going to call at this point. He goes to a really deep tank, and I'm actually thinking, dude, I have top pair with great kicker here, but please fold. And eventually, he does. We win a decent-sized pot. We then win a few small pots with ace-6 of diamonds. I open, flop, and ace, and then a guy decides to bluff me small in the river. I call, and then we get into this next hand. This next hand is one of the weirdest hands I've played ever. I've got Jack 10 of hearts in the cutoff. Under the gun opens to $25. I put in a call, and so does the small blind, who's the guy that's already tried to bluff us like 3 times, so he's giving a ton of action. To a flop of 6, king, 3 with 1 heart. Well, that sucks. The small blind checks, and then the under the gun does not check. He doesn't bet. He just open mucks on a king high board. Wow, I mean, what under the gun hand opens to $25 just to fold? I mean, what is this? Like 9, 10 of like spades or something? That was weird. It gets to me, and obviously I just check here. We turn a flush draw with the 8 of hearts. But now the small blind bets for $30. We have good odds here. I put in the call, and the river is the deuce of spades, and he checks to me. Do I really want to show down Jack high here and lose? This is a guy that's very capable of betting a 6, an 8, or a 3. Doesn't have to have a king here, and if he does, it's probably not going to be a huge king. So I go pretty polar for 130. I know this guy is capable of bluffing, but is he capable of calling light? He gives me the old stare down, and I have not shown a ton of, like, I haven't done a bunch of 3-bettings. I haven't seen a bunch of big hands. I've been, like, tank calling with top pair in the river, so I think my image is that I'm pretty tight. I have not announced to the table that I don't play 2-5 very much. But maybe he just knows because he puts in the call and owns my soul with ace-6 of clubs. Nice hand. We now look down at a first on the channel, I think. I don't think I've posted any of these in the fort. The bomb pots at 2-5 are PLO. Now, I learned the hard way that the ace alone does not make the nut flush, so I have tried to stray away from PLO a little bit, but have not seen a lot of cards today, and I want to get involved. And boy, will we. We see king, 7, 8, jack. And the top board comes 4, 7, king, so we have top 2 pair. And the second board comes queen, 5, 3. And interestingly, it checks around. The turns are a king and a 9. So we've got so on the top board, we have the absolute nuts. And on the bottom board, we have a ton of draws. There's a pot in front of me. And I think the only move here is this is what the PLO folks do. I say pot again. And it folds around to him. And he's just looking at me. I think he has a really big hand on the other board. He never says that, but I just gave the vibe that I was really happy. I actually haven't won a PLO hand ever, so I'm very down for him to fold here. But if he sticks it in, and we have multiple draws to scoop his ass on the other board, so I'm very down for him to call. But I think he just understood the vibe that I just had it straight up on one board. And yeah, he puts in the fold. I let him know that I did have the best hand on one board, and his ass was going to get scooped on the other if he called. So yeah, we take the dub. That actually calls it here for this first 2-5 session. We were in for 900, out for 1246. Really card dead. Will there be more 2-5 sessions coming? I have good news and I have bad news. The good news is, did I play some more 2-5 sessions? Yes. Here's some pictures from how they went. I've actually been kind of crushing it, but I was buying in for $1,200 to $1,500, so I decided not to record them because I really wanted to focus on winning. It went really well. Didn't run scorching hot except for runner quad aces, which was great. But we did have a hand where I turned the second nut straight against the nut straight, which I blocked. So that was very unfortunate. As you can imagine, I lost a lot of money. But yeah, probably not going to be some 2-5 in the near future, but next month there probably will be a lot more. But yeah, I have another session coming. Obviously, you guys are going to see the video is going to extend here. A 1-2 session. And let's just say there's going to be a couple hands in here that might be some of the most confusing you've ever seen. Let's get into it. All right, so first hand at 1-2 here. I'm on the button and open queen 10 to $15. Only get a call from the +1 to a flop of 3, 7, 10. We have top pair with a decent kicker. When he checks to me here, it's not rocket science. I bet for $15 and he calls. Turn is a 3 of diamonds, a card that in theory he could connect with. When he checks to me again, still not enough to persuade me to not bet. I bet for $35 and again he calls. The river is the 8 of clubs, a really good run out it appears, and he checks again. Now I think this is a small inflection point. If I were at shuffle and I knew the players, I would bet here. I've been getting trapped a lot lately in my TC8 sessions lately, so I actually just check behind. I show him the 10 and we're good, so did miss out on a bit of value for sure. This next hand is a pretty interesting one that I think you could have played multiple different ways, so I'm curious if you guys think I played it wrong. I'm in the big blind. There's a open to $12 from the +1. The cutoff calls and I call. To a flop of 7, jack, 6, rainbow. Wow, we flop top 2 pair. I check and flow, and the +1 continues for $15. And now the cutoff raises to 40. This is, again, I think, another inflection point. You could do two things. My initial inclination was to raise, just if the +1 has an overpair, he calls, there's a 6 on the turn, or there's just a lot of bad turn cards that we don't want to see. I think calling actually still is the best one because we probably have the best hand here almost all the time, and we're still likely going to have the best hand on the turn. But then again, if I check on the turn, does it check through once this guy gets 2 calls? I'm not sure. Long story short, I raise to 100. The +1 folds, and the cutoff just looks at me like, are you serious right now? And he folds as well. So might have misplayed, and definitely we did lose some value. All right, we got ace-king in the small blind. The cutoff opens to $15. It was a guy that just got caught bluffing, and yeah, that's just something big to note. My guy Chase on my left, if you're watching this, shout out. Just shipped it on him, 3-bet all in on the flop, and the guy had second pair and he had to fold. So he might be on tilt, might not. I got ace-king, so I don't really care. I'm going to 3-bet. And I meant to 3-bet to 45, but I just lost the other 5 as I was making the bet. So we're 3-betting to 40. And then he just jams all in with a massive stack of chips. As I said, I think there's a time and a place to be folding ace-king pre-flop, which I personally need to get better at because I keep running into aces every time I get ace-king. I'm a little nervous, but this is not, I mean, he's not 3-bet shoving like way big with aces. So I call and I tell him I don't have a pair, and he says he doesn't have a pair either. So let's go to the run out.
Oh, there's 2 honest people.
Oh, that's not
Queen. That's even worse. Queen.
It's actually
Ace-king. Yeah, we win a massive pot with this big-ass stack of chips. Let's go. Ace King holds without hitting a pair. A little nervous on the run out, but at least he told me he didn't have a pair pre-flop. Also, I forgot to mention that we had switched tables, so we were at a different 1-2 table, and I went down to 8-9 of clubs and end up limping for some reason. Maybe because I thought the big blind was going to raise, and he does. He pops it up to $25. There's a call in front of me. Obviously, I call, and so does the small blind. So 4 ways to a flop after I limp 8-9 of clubs. 2 jack, 6-9 with 1 club. Well, that's not horrible, not great. The big blind continues for $25. There's a fold in front of me, and I don't know much about this guy, but we flopped a pair here, some backdoor draws. Going to put in a call and see what happens. And the small blind folds. So heads up to a turn of the 10 of clubs. Wow. We have a pair and an open-ended straight flush draw. But he continues for $75. This is an interesting spot here. I think calling isn't the worst thing. He's got a little over 200 behind. And if he's got aces, kings, or even queens, I mean, I just can't imagine any one pair hand wants to call a jam here because he could be drawing dead. So that's right. I limp 8-9 of clubs, and now I'm about to semi-bluff jam. Yeah, I rip it all in, and I don't get snap called, which is great. But eventually, after tanking for a while, he puts in the call. He asked me once or twice. You guys know the answer to this. We're going once. And please, there's no way we're ahead, right? We have to be behind. One time, let me hit the river, and the run out is this.
Straight flush, come on, straight flush, straight flush. Damn it.
Oh.
Yeah, what did just happen? The jack of spades, I basically tell him, you're good, flip over my cards. And he just shows ace king. Wow. Okay. Without a club, we end up just winning the pot with a pair of 9s. The table was an absolute shock, as I was. I did not expect to win that. I thought we had just kind of dusted off our entire stack when I could have called 75 to see a combo draw. Yeah, quite the whirlwind of emotions. We win ace-king without hitting a pair in 8-9 of clubs, all in with just a 9. Yeah, quite the whirlwind of emotions. But we win. I mean, we have a massive stack after that. Yeah, and at the end there, I mean, that was the last time we played. We kind of went card dead, had to go in for 300, out for 850. Yeah, so this Texas action is the real deal. If those of you are out of town, trust me, it is just different. So that concludes for this vlog. If you guys leave a like and sub, helps the channel so much. Appreciate it. Anyways, I'm Chris, and I'm out.